All right, guys, this is Northbound Central coming back at you with another YouTube video. And this time I have a little bit of bad news. I'm going to go ahead and address the first news here with you today. And that is Bishop Thomas, the former four-star defensive tackle that was super talented in the class and was able to kind of go to Florida State and be there from the Louisiana area. But unfortunately, it was not really meant to be, as he has entered the transfer portal trying to look for another opportunity. And you saw this with the defensive tackle room, as we had discussed before with Joshua Farmer, who has now kind of disenrolled himself from the transfer portal at this point. Everything is good to go, and he's back on the roster and everything. So we'll see how that process goes as these young men try to find a way and find their journey throughout this season. But you looking at the defensive tackle room, you have Fabian Lovett, you have Dennis Briggs, you have Fisk. You also have Malcolm Ray, Daryl Jackson, Joshua Farmer, Daniel Lyons, Aotia Fossey, Keith Sampson. I mean, the list goes on at that point. And you got all those names in there, but Bishop Thomas was kind of the man out. And unfortunately, that's just kind of how it is in today's college football world. Kids got to see the best opportunity for themselves, and the grass is greener on the other side sometimes. So it may be a group of five opportunity for him. Who knows? He may even get a Power Five opportunity at another school, but super talented kid, wishing him nothing but the best. Him and his loved ones are going to have the time of their lives as they try to find out the next journey in their chapters and everything like that as well. So we'll definitely see. But let's go ahead and get into the bigger news in terms of this. This is Mycah Pittman going to be entering the transfer portal. He had actually released it on Twitter, deleted it, and actually uploaded it and everything like that as well. To Florida State fans, kind of surprised there because Mycah Pittman was that guy as he was. I mean, he wasn't a super highly productive wide receiver at Florida State in his only season coming from Oregon. He had 32 receptions, 30 yards, and also 3 touchdowns. And really, the most significant thing about him was his punt return specialist there. I mean, he had 19 punt returns for 169 yards. The most important thing is he didn't have any drop punts, and Florida State has had a history of that as of late. And you look at that, and Mycah Pittman was a guy that you can have an insurance snap on. You look at a guy like Malik Neighbors at LSU. He had already dropped 2 punts, and you already saw the impacts that it could be from LSU in terms of winning and losing a football game. Florida State's going to have to replace that. But in terms of his wide receiver production, he brings a skill set of physicality, toughness, willingness to block. I think he does all the little things right. He's a culture changer, a culture builder in this program. And I thought this was a guy that you can really kind of lean on in that production. He might not ever be a guy that gets over 500 yards receiving. He may not be a guy that ever gets 10 touchdowns, but he is a guy that can go to work every single day and perform at a high level. I expect him to probably go West Coast if I could suggest that as well, but we'll definitely see how that kind of plays out. In terms of the receivers that I think are going to step up in terms of his production, it's going to be hard to replace some of that production, especially as I've stated before, the punt returns and also the willingness to block and everything like that as well. But Winston Wright comes to mind, a receiver that was injured in the Savannah, Georgia car accident. He had a lower body injury and missed all of last season. He did a really good job at West Virginia. He had over 1,300 yards and 7 touchdowns during his 3-year playing career as well. And the most important thing was he was a kickoff specialist that just was absolutely dynamic with the ball in his hands. He had 52 kickoff returns, 1,236 yards, and also 2 touchdowns. Would have been 3 if he didn't get hawked down at the 2-yard line. And really, if you think about that, a Seminole player has not eclipsed 300 kickoff return yards in a single season since Kermit Whitfield did so in 2016. So I think that's very important to understand his impact on the field, especially in the slot as well, to kind of replace that production that Mycah Pittman has. Another guy I'm thinking about is Ja'Kai Douglas. This is a guy that was very, very highly touted from from the Louisiana area, excuse me. And also, it's kind of a situation there where Florida State wants to kind of get better at that productive wide receiver spot. You look at a situation there where, Ja'Kai Douglas is kind of that give it all type of receiver, big game, big play ability at this point. Actually accumulated an average 15.7 yards per catch. I think that was very important to understand there. His dynamic playing ability was something that Jordan Travis absolutely loved. When he was healthy, he was very good, but the problem was he kind of struggled with his health early on in the season, and he kind of had to recover as he goes through. But just looking at that wheel route against Miami, the wheel route against Notre Dame, he comes up in pivotal spots, but can he be able to do that this season? I think that's going to be a big testament to who he is. And then the last guy I want to talk about, And this is a guy that I've discussed in a previous video as well, and that's Vandrevius Jacobs, a former high school standout at Vero Beach. I think this is a very important get for Florida State in the recruiting class. Everyone talks about Hakeem Williams, but some people were forgetting about Vandrevius Jacobs and also Gordy Lawrence, who's going to be enrolling in the summer. But you kind of have to realize that this is a guy that they utilize all over the field. You talked about in the spring game where they were utilizing him in the jet sweep motions. They were getting him in the outside. And you looked at late in the third quarter, the spring game, when Brock Glenn threw him a pass. It was kind of a simple screen pass, kind of throwing it up on 3rd and 10 at this point. He shoved off the defender, then was able to shake 2 defenders going to the 5-yard line. That kind of speaks to his versatility and kind of his effort that he brings to the field each and every day. And I think it's very important. Can he get his confidence up? And he also kind of returned in the return game as well. Hopefully, we'll be able to kind of see that as we go through the process there. But just super excited to see how they're going to develop the receivers. I expect them to probably even go at the transfer portal just to kind of get another guy and another playmaker to do that. Don't really know the names of them just yet in terms of the guys that are coming out, because there still is a period where April the 30th is kind of the last day. Unless you're a graduate transfer, you can be able to enter the transfer portal after this period as well. But it is kind of something to kind of watch out for. But those are kind of 3 names that I would kind of monitor as we go through Mycah Pittman. But I'm not going to just sit here and say it is what it is, because Mycah Pittman is a very, very quality receiver at the collegiate level. And I think you're going to have to figure out a way to at least counteract some of that production and be able to be a great offensive skill set at the wide receiver position. I know Ron Dugans is going to have his hands full, but I know that he is going to be able to develop these receivers at a high level at this point. But I really appreciate all the love and support as always on my videos. Be sure to hit the subscribe button. It is completely free. Be sure to hit the thumbs up before you get out of here. Let's try to get this video up to 40 likes if we can. And I really appreciate all the love and support. And as always, go Noles.